Ed Latimore, welcome to the It's Not That Deep podcast, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Always a pleasure when someone wants to listen to anything I have to say, man.
Man, and you know what? You say that, but there are a lot of people out there who want to listen to what you have to say. Giving you a quick little intro, you're a retired professional boxer, author of 2 different books, I believe, veteran of the U.S. National Guard, an influencer. I'm sure, I don't know how you feel about that label, but you definitely have influence, and you've amassed a pretty large Twitter following, and are prolific online for your writing, among other things.
Yeah, and it looks like I'm gonna try and move into this whole YouTube space. People have told me repeatedly that I'm probably wasting talent. So, we'll see. Right?
You don't strike me as somebody who cares too much what people have to say, but inputs are always important.
Yeah, not only that, I'm always looking at ways to, optimize my life. And while I and it's important because I wanted to do this online thing the way I wanted to do it, which is I like words, I like writing, and that's cool. But when I was getting into it, man, YouTube was not nearly as large as it is now. Now it's like a real search engine, which is weird to me because I don't know how old you are, but like I remember when there was no YouTube. That was most of my life. Now kids are like, oh, I want to grow up and be a YouTube influencer, and that's weird in of itself.
And it's super weird about YouTube because even I mean when I grew up, I saw YouTube come and start to happen. People were posting cat videos and random things here and there, and I was like, that's cool, I guess, but I never thought anything much of it. It's like, this is a great aggregator of video content, that's it. But then when you started to see the shift and advertising get into the space and people actually building a life off creating content, it was a game changer. And then you basically gave people the ability to put out content that can get them paid.
Yeah, it's just the cool world we live in, man. If you're willing to go and build and take the time to build a following, you can do some really interesting stuff out there.
Exactly, man. So, taking it back a little bit for those who might not be familiar with your story, let's talk about how you got into boxing to begin with, because you have an incredible story, man. Like, boxing, studies physics, wrote a couple books, just incredible story. But I'm sure to you, living it, it's just like, this is my story, man. So tell us a little bit about what was kind of a catalyzing moment when you realized, man, I need a box.
Yeah, so there was this person I was dating for years, and then while I was dating that person, I wasn't making any progress whatsoever. I just, I think guys go through this situation where they just need that approval and that feminine energy. So I made sure I did everything all day to stay around this person, and I didn't make progress in my own life. And during that time, you get a sour grape syndrome where I started railing against college, talking, it's how useless it is, this, that, and the other. And I still have this opinion now. The difference is now I have a degree, so I can go, I've been through the grinder, and it's a degree that could get me paid a lot of money, but I still think it's useless. Anyhow, I used to make that argument at the girl's house to her mother. And she goes, okay, well, that's cool, but, and here's the kicker, her mom's a college professor. She go, okay, what have you done to show like some type of sweat equity over the past few years other than like eat my food? And then she threw me out. And when she threw me out, it was a wake-up call. It was some tough love that no one had ever really given me. And I was like, wow, this is really useful. What am I going to do now? And then we broke up shortly after. And I said, okay. And we were just talking about YouTube. And I started looking at it. That was right when it was getting big. Guys were putting up fight videos. And I said, okay, let me do this. Let me go try boxing out. I've always wanted to try that. So I went and boxed. I started boxing, and I said, you know what? I'm not gonna get beat out the gym. Like, if I have to stop boxing, it's going to be because I'm injured or I'm just like so terrible and showing no improvement that people start pulling me aside. And neither of those things, were the case. I just kind of kept sticking with it through the ups and downs and got better and better and better. And one thing led to another, and before you know it, I think major events in my boxing career, winning the Pennsylvania State Gold Glove, then going on to nationals, and then nationals beat Dominic Brazil, and because I beat him and he was represented by this group in Los Angeles, I got recruited by that group in Los Angeles. I finished the last 2 years of my amateur career as a paid sponsored amateur, and living in LA, they covered my rent, my food, and paid me a stipend, and all I had to do was train. That set the tone for me to have a real resume, so that when I went to become pro, I could get signed by a promoter. Then I was signed by Rock Nation Sports, and I was with them until I lost. And then when I lost, I was like, okay. But because while I was boxing, I didn't just think boxing was the end all be all. I started building up other parts of my life so that when I left the sport, I could leave to something. And that was one of the smartest decisions I've ever made. I look back and I think about some of the things that I got flack on when I was fighting, because it looked like it would take time away from fighting, and now it's really set me up. Like I was saying before we started the show, that there's a foundation now, and so I'm not freaking out worried about how life is going to go even in these uncertain times. I got money in the bank and money rolling in, and not a lot of it, but it's pretty consistent, and it's enough to where like if it's shut down now, I'd be like, okay, let me get to another country and figure this out.
And I think a big thing there was the biggest theme from that whole quick synopsis of your story is the self-awareness part, and it was that moment when with your ex-girlfriend where it was like, yo, maybe she's right. What have I done? What am I doing? Like, how can I have more value and do more things? And then that's when I'm sure it didn't just happen overnight, but there was probably a period of time when you're like doing an audit of what are the things that I'm doing and where do I want to be and what do I want to do and how do I close that gap? That's really interesting to me because
exactly.
Go ahead.
I said I was going to say, exactly that it's one thing to. I think self-awareness is a really big deal, because there's a lot of people. I know people. I mean, where you can look at your life and go, "This is great. This is cool. This is fun." And be totally oblivious, and then there's the other one where it's just like, what, I'm gonna be this guy and go this way, and I have no problem with any decision a person makes on how to live their life as long as it doesn't hurt innocent people. But the moment you start complaining about anything in your life, seriously, like what makes it work, maybe you have to. I'm like, all right, well, what are you complaining about? This is what you wanted, and for me, I was able to look and go, this is not what I want, like in many ways. And now, every day I wake up really grateful. I wake up really happy. And I know that each day I get closer and closer to a goal, because I'm working, with that self-awareness that I started with. Going, okay, I did not have this. Let me figure out how to get it,
So you launched a blog during this journey. I believe it's called Mind and Fist. And so you were taking some of the lessons that you learned throughout this journey, and we're now putting it into word form, right?
Yeah.
Now, have you always thought of yourself as somebody who is a writer? Or was this also a conscious decision that, man, just like working out, I got to put the reps in. I got to get good at being a writer?
Both, man, because I've always wanted to write. I still write now, or I still write as of this moment. and I'll continue to grow the blog and work on projects that involve the written word. With that said, I've gone through some of my old writing and some of my old books to edit, clean up, and I look and I see like just how far I've come. And you only can do that, man, with you got to be willing to take feedback, you got to be willing to take tough love, you got to be willing to practice, and you have to accept that nothing really happens by itself on its own. It's a deliberate effort, and it's deliberately kind of stepping through a challenge point. And a lot of people shy away from those challenge points. I always tried to step through them. That's always been a trait of mine. Once I applied that to other areas in my life, it was a wrap, as they say.
No, I could see that for sure, man. And I correct me if I'm wrong, but one of these inflection points, was when you had decided to give up drinking. And this is a really important thing that I want to discuss with you, because I had actually read one of your articles, 10 observations from 2 years not drinking. I don't know, it must have came across my Twitter feed or something like that. Let me check this out. I'll tell you my experience. For me, I was very much a casual drinker. I never really considered myself to really have a problem or an addiction to it. But when you do that audit, when you have that self-awareness and you start to look at, where do I want to be versus where I'm at right now, you start to realize some of the common denominator, for lack of a better word, to certain decisions. Talk to me about your decision to just stop drinking.
I realized that my social currency was dwindling, and it was largely because I was wasting it recovering and apologizing for behavior when I was under the influence. That's one big deal. Right. And then I had to take another hard look at my life at 28. At 28, I'm pro. I think I turned pro, that year. But, there's not a lot of money in boxing, and I couldn't get a much better job. And I was really just in this rough and crazy position. And I had to figure out something. I had to ask myself, I had to go, okay, why is this happening? Why can't I make any progress in other areas of my life? And the thing that it kept coming back to was the alcohol. I looked at all the problems I had in my personal life, any failures, arguments, mishaps. I used to be proud of I used to say proudly, 95% of my problems are either caused or exacerbated by alcohol. And that seems silly that I would be proud of that. But once I really looked at what I was saying and focused on it, I said, wow, okay, so this is the problem. This has got to go. And I made the decision when I got back from AIT, Advanced Individual Training in the military. I went out partying one night, woke up, didn't know how I got to my friend's house, none of that. And I was just like, okay, so here's what we got on the horizon. I had just re-enrolled in school, and I was going to finish school because I went back to school late. Now as part of the military. I was just starting my pro career, and I just met my girlfriend, who's my girlfriend now. We were just talking about wedding stuff. So this was all like 8 years ago at this point. And I said, okay, what's the play here? We recognize what the problem. Well, let's eliminate the problem. Let's see are we serious about getting together, in our life together, making progress, or is this lip service? And I was like, nah, man, I'm serious, because I'll tell you what, man, I'm so happy right now. I have no idea in the other timeline what I'm doing if I keep drinking. I feel like if I kept that relationship, I feel like I'm not living this life. This is a good life I have, man. And I really think a lot of it is because I had the wherewithal to recognize that my relationship with alcohol was not getting me any closer to anything that I wanted.
Yeah, I think a big thing there is that it's become so normalized and ingrained in our society as just the thing to do. Oh, you got to let loose. You got to have a couple beers after work. Oh, happy hour. Oh, it's wine o'clock. Like, it's just become so you're weird if you don't drink. Right. I found that in that I did 90 days this year, and in that 90 days, the times I would still go out, I would still be out with friends and just not drink. People look at me like I'm the sicko. Like, you know, what's wrong with you, bro?
There's a joke we have that alcohol is the only drug where people think you have a problem if you don't do it.
1000%, man. I could not agree more.
And it's funny, but it's true, you know.
Now, I can't say for me personally that I've been able to do as incredible things as you did when you stopped drinking. But for me, in my life and my journey, that 90 days, you know, it came about from last year doing 1 month and finding that difficult and having that conversation with myself, like, bro, a month? A month, I found it hard. Like, I genuinely was like, man, Friday night, like, be nice to crack open a cold one with the boys, you know? Even that, I was like having a hard time with it, but I did it. And I'm like, you know what, 2020, I got to do at least 2 months. So I did 3. And that's not to like sound like, oh my God, I did this crazy thing. For me, it was only to be able to test myself and be like, what is your relationship with this thing? What's going on here?
Exactly.
The amount of changes I was able to make in that 90 days, I might not have been able to do all that in a year. Started my business, grew the podcast, got the mayor on my podcast, did like incredible things that I attribute to buying an extra 2 days every week in productivity. I attribute to saying no to things that I may have otherwise, you know, been like, hell yeah, man, let's go get fucked up and black out and wake up at a friend's house, you know.
Right, like,
you know what I'm saying? And so I found that really powerful. I sent that article to maybe like 5 or 10 people, the article that you wrote, and it really, like, it genuinely inspires me, and I hope that people out there don't think that I'm harping on them for drinking. I think drinking it can be a beautiful thing in a certain time and place, but I do think that it's important to be cognizant and self-aware of the substances that we put in our body and the relationship, and how that, you know, you're talking about in the article how it makes you confront your emotions when you're sober. Yeah. And I felt that, dude. You feel everything, good and bad. It's like you feel it. You can't drown out that pain or that happiness even, or anything with just alcohol. You got to just sit there with it.
Yeah, and there's really nowhere to go. I mean, it's really one of the things you notice is that everyone uses alcohol as a cathartic or celebratory device. It's either, okay, something bad happened, let's drink, or something great happened, we got to go for a drink. And there's never really, we don't really learn a lot of ways to live without that. And so when you are forced to do it, and on top of that, the media pushes it, everything is push to have you use alcohol as your emotional salve. And so when you step away from that, man, you're forcing yourself to go against not just what you're used to, but what society is trying to make you do. It's one of those things, you know, I don't think about it much now, because at this point, it'll be 7 years this year. But at this point, there's so much pressure that if you can step away from it, you demonstrate a type of strength that I think is rare today. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, it's mental fortitude in a weird way. And I think, you know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you can draw a lot of these things from being in a ring one-on-one with somebody. That I'm sure that also plays a role, and the training involved and the discipline involved and the things involved in all the other areas of your life to make this all work, that you were able to realize, like, okay, you know what? the drinking is something that's not contributing positively to that.
Right. Exactly. And I'm very much an optimizer. That's like, it's funny. I was using that word before I found out that there's this whole like emotional strengths finder test you can take to figure out like what your 5 emotional strengths are. And one of mine is optimization, strategizing, things like that. And so for me, it's not even a matter of like, or just other reasons, I guess, to support it. It's not even a matter of, okay, bad things happen when I drink. That stop bad things from happening. It's drinking keeps me from being able to do the good things to the maximum level that I could.
Right.
Let's get rid of it. That's where that really comes in and plays a really big role in my life for me, man, because I love it. I love being responsible for everything. I don't like if someone dislikes me, and now I know it's because I said something sober, and I'm like, all right, I can stand by that, or apologize if it was like off the cuff. But what I won't be able to do is go and say, oh man, it was drunk me. You can't
blame it on the alcohol.
Exactly. I mentioned that in the article, man, that's one of the things, that's like the theme, blame it on the alcohol. That's a whole song, right? But we don't want to do that. We want to have control. At least I want to have control over everything. That is comforting to me. To some people, that's scary.
1,000%, man. Confronting those thoughts and actually being one with them. It sounds almost like to some people like you're on some crazy woohoo next level, like this guy's in monk mode. It's like, bro, I'm here. I'm doing everything you guys are doing. I'm just not sipping. It's not that deep.
Exactly. It's nothing crazy.
Yeah.
Just come along.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying, it's weird. It's when you make a decision that contrasts the life experience of other people. When you do, vegetarians experience this a lot.
Yeah.
They are doing something that most other people are doing or not doing, right? Just against the grain. And so the other people, they have to look at this, and I think it's a special type of cognitive dissonance. They have to go, okay, this person is okay. I like this person. All things are well. They just don't do this thing that I consider vital to my identity. And maybe they don't think it's vital, but it definitely is. And so they go, okay, how is this person both likable and a person different for me in this way? Okay, they must not exist. Let me change that. Because that's the in conclusion, that either they don't exist or that they're wrong. Okay, so since you can't get rid of them, you have to go, okay, you must be wrong. And so that's what they try to do.
Well, that's what we like to do. We like to put people in these neat little boxes in our minds. We like to categorize people. I think it's just something that we're wired to just put people in these different labels and boxes. When I'm listing off all the things that you are at the beginning of this podcast, it's like, yeah, you do those things. Yeah, you've done those things. That's not who Ed Latimore is. You could tomorrow you could become an actor. Tomorrow you could become a YouTuber. Now, like these titles keep changing, but it's like, who are you? Who does it boil down to at the end of the day? It's different than those labels, but it's just easier to introduce people that way. And boiling that down to people's identity, it's easier for them to be like, oh, this guy doesn't drink. And then all the head trash associated with that. And kind of one thing like that I want to say about that, though, like you speak about like vegetarians and stuff like that. I also think on the flip side, I think people who are all about optimization, like I would consider myself, I'm nowhere near your level or a lot of other people's level in this space, but I like to improve my health, wealth, happiness, and all these kinds of things the best that I can every day, right? Even I get caught up in, looking at certain people who are doing the absolute opposite of that and putting them in a box like, oh man, they just don't get it. Like they just don't understand, man. Like their life could be up here if they just did this, this, and that. But then you gotta kind of slap yourself and think, man, that's not my job to like judge or like put whatever energy I'm on to other people. So it's like it's a thing. It's like it's even, you probably see this a lot on your Twitter feed. A lot of the people that you interact with are probably share a lot of similar traits, and you see them basically shitting on people online, like, man, like the obese population, the vegans, the this. Everyone got so idealistic about these things, and it's like it's very hard to not become a victim of these labels.
Right, it is. It very much so is. But that, like you said, it makes it easier for us to think and interact with one another. It's very unique for a person to be able to go, okay, you are just a new person, and it's hard. It's hard for us to look at a new person and not slice them up into a group or a box, because what else? We're looking to make quick decisions. The brain is looking to get as much out of as little as possible, and that means putting forth as little energy as you can to make a decision. And if we can just label, okay, you wrote this, you must be that, and you have that in your box, you must be that, or you must be black, or you must be white, so this, that, or the other. That's never going to go anywhere. And I think once again it comes down to self-awareness. Self-awareness is being aware that you do that, and then trying to overcome it or move past it, or just short circuit it. Do something to keep that from degrading the quality of your life.
But you see, like in the world that we're living in right now, and especially right now as we're talking about this right now, when I don't have to tell you about everything going on in your own country. I mean, I'm from Canada, but I don't have to tell you about everything that's going on, man. You could turn on the news. We don't have to talk about all that. It is just, it's hard to even have an opinion on something these days without upsetting many other people. It's very hard to even like voice how you actually feel on a topic or something. Without upsetting a lot of people. And then it really just then comes down to, I mean, the title of your book, not caring what other people think is a superpower. And I think you've honed this in a way that not many people have been able to capitalize on. Is like you genuinely exhibit not giving a shit what people think. And I think that's very interesting, man.
Well, I try to, because the key to living that way is, so people take that as an invitation to kind of be like the worst human possible, and it's nothing like that. It's adhering to values that you, particularly you yourself, find important, regardless of what the rest of the world does. And like, to me, with the values that I find important, I really big on respect and treating another person like they're a person. And learning from everyone else, and really trying to, I'm a big believer in building bridges, not walls. I'm like the opposite there, obviously with some control and discipline, but the overall idea doesn't change. I'm a big believer in connecting, and that has guided my decisions. That's guided everything I put out, everything I do. It doesn't, and even when it's not popular, sometimes you got to say what's not popular, do what's not popular. And but if you do so, people forget that if you do this, then it's going to be a lot easier for you to actually build people's trust and have them really care what you say, care what you think. When you make a statement, they know you're being real, because you have been relatively even and consistent the whole way through when you say or do something. And I think that's what people are missing.
It's not the best strategy in the short term if all you want is to be loved and adored by everybody you come across, which is something that a lot of people fall for when they get into, this kind of space, or, right, putting out content and being vulnerable and putting yourself out there. I think a fallacy is like people will want to maximize the validation they get from the most amount of people, when if you flip that on its head, I feel like you found a strategy where it's like, in the short term, I might rub you the wrong way, but if you ride with me, if you actually listen and boil down what I'm trying to say, in the long term, you're going to stick around.
Yeah, it's
or you're not. You're not, and that's good. That's great. That's better for you, because now you're almost weeding out the people who you actually don't want consuming your content, because that's an important thing as well.
Yeah, at the end of the day, like, I don't. If I'm for you, great. If I'm not, great too. Because I tell people all the time. One of the suggestions I give guys, I'm like, I don't understand why you polling your audience to see what you should make next, right? Just create it. If I don't understand, any of that type of thought process, because maybe I'm just lucky, or maybe I am a product of what I have always been saying. But look, if you just create and you don't think too much about what other people think, but what is important to you, then there's a pretty good chance you're going to create something kick-ass anyway, and you'll find that audience for that will find you. I think it's when you try to create things, when you try to do things because the public demands it, that you're going to put yourself in a position to suffer.
Yeah, man, because then, and we all talk about wanting to escape the kind of shackles of a 9-to-5, or a lot of people are like, I don't want to have a boss and this kind of thing, and they think that just going out there putting content on the internet, you're just gonna become this smash hit millionaire with a lot of fame. Everyone's gonna like you,
right?
That's like the biggest misconception.
Man, I wish that happened, man. You know how great that'd be.
So it's almost like, I feel like, I think something that you honed in on, and I'm working on, I'm in the process, I'm doing it right here with you, and is having that long-term vision, looking at, okay, long-term, if I keep doing the things that I believe in and that are right to me. You spoke about, your different whys, respect, learning from others, building bridges, not walls, having that control and discipline. If those are your, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if this is your core, principles and your why, if these are just some of the things that are really important to you and you don't stray away from that, the right people, right, the right clients, the right readers, listeners, subscribers, all those vanity metrics, they'll find you. That's just a result. That's not the driver. That's not Ed Latimore does not wake up in the morning man, I'm about to get this 200K followers on Twitter. That's the only, you don't give a shit, because you're going to probably have 2.5 million. It doesn't, right. It's a result of just putting in the reps, putting in the work, working on that jab, just continuing to just master. I guess I would say it's mastery for you, right?
Yeah, as long as I keep up what I'm doing, I'm just enjoying I'm enjoying it, and I'm helping people, and I get better every time. So there's some challenge there in the growth and development. So yeah. Once again, I think this is a benefit, I guess, or a side effect, a nice side effect of what I do and what I'm creating is look, I know I have a lot of followers on Twitter, man. I'm aware of that, but it's really interesting that I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to put out helpful stuff.
If anyone reads Ed Latimore's tweets right now, if you're listening to this, pull up Twitter, go to @Ed Latimore, you'll see that this is something you're able to do that blows my mind. Half the time you're joking around about crack, and you're bringing real life experiences, coming up the way you came up, and all the different life experience that you have, and you're just raw and authentic and talking about all these things in almost a funny way, but then bringing it back, reeling you into seriousness. And you've almost you put out content so consistently. You got the email list. You've got such a committed fan base. You're clearly you're doing podcasts. You're gonna do YouTube. You're not worried about all the bullshit that's going on outside of your control. You're busy enough just doing the things that you gotta do. And so,
right, like I'm so focused on my thing that I can't worry about anything else, man. And it's already hard enough.
I can absolutely relate, and this is something that, like, I'm kind of like battling with right now myself, because, and not to compare myself to you, but I've just got so many different things going on, so many pots on the stove, that I'm just, I'm doing fucking too many things. I'm just, balancing too many different things, but they're all things that are bringing me closer to my goals. So I quite frankly don't have time for the things that are not going to bring me any closer to my goals. And that kind of brings me to, like, one of the next things I wanted to really chat with you about. And it's how you've been able to kind of bring together four different types of freedom. And I read this, I'm definitely just reading this off some quote thing that I saw on Twitter, but it's like freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of relationships, and freedom of purpose. I feel like you're one of the few people, and again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, who's kind of figured out how to harmonize these things and create the life that you want to live.
Yeah, that's why life is so happy. First of all, that's really, I'm pausing this because that's a really good way to kind of describe everything, man. That everything's together and makes me it makes me happy with my day. But in terms of how I've gone about doing it, is I just have. I made sure I learned the business principles, kind of the general idea, and nothing too crazy, just like top level attention. The more attention you have, if attention is X, and Y are like your 1,000 are your fans, and then and Z are the number of people who are going to spend money. X is always going to be greater than Y. It's going to be greater than Z, and Z is going to be a set of Y. It's going to be a set of X. That kind of thing. So I'm always thinking like, okay, so how do I want to go about building said audience? Well, I want to build it in a way that's sustainable, that I can do it forever, that is not topical, that is based on me and my improvement. So I work on my writing, I work on pulling stories, my learning, my perspective, sharing my thoughts and everything, really being transparent. And you have to believe, at least I believe, that I'm like the most interesting person that a person's ever going to meet. So I walk around with that, but I'm also convinced that that there's a lot for me to learn. So there's these kind of almost competing ideas. I'm too cool for school, but I gotta go to school so I can keep being cool, kind of thing. Yeah. And when you have those, that's good. I'm gonna probably tweet that later. But when you have those two ideas working in tandem, then I think you're going to be more likely to create something that meets the business objective, but does so in a way that allows you to be authentic. And I think one of the things that really helps is if for whatever reason I have absolute faith now that I have like an above average pulse on kind of what people are going to respond to and what they're going to look at and how they're going to feel about a certain thing. So I kind of know what places to steer away from, what places to steer towards, and then how I can go about balancing one or the other, and picking the best objectives to kind of run to move towards that make the most sense. I think I'm really good, and I'm not even that hard of a worker, but I'm really good at kind of picking where to put the energy and looking and go, okay, if I put the energy here, how is this going to help me in the future? And that's really important to know. You have to know, are you making the right moves to set you up for what you want? And that's the other thing, my whole setup, I never have lost track of the point that my goal is to be able to disappear for a month and see no change in my income whatsoever. I never forgot that goal. So that's why I do very little consultations, but I'm big on creating programs, big on learning SEO, big on understanding Twitter, big on anything that multiplies my ability to sell and do it passively. While I can go to sleep and wake up, somebody bought something from an affiliate link on my site, for example. That's a great feeling.
So it's a lot of constantly sharpening your axe, but also making sure there's trees to cut down. So
exactly,
yeah, I like that a lot, and it's putting your energy in the right places that's actually going to yield results for you and help you, keep striving closer towards that why. And a lot of people in my audience are people similar to me in that they got that 9-to-5 job, but they're constantly got the side hustles. They got a lot of things that they want to work on. They got, they want to start a business and they want to grow something with their own life and maximize their potential. And recently I figured out what my personal why is. And it's always been that realizing my potential. There's a point I was like 310 pounds, man. I lost my way. I was in university. I was in a dark place. Comes down to self-awareness and climbing out of that, making the conscious decision to change. And when I'm thinking about my audience and I'm thinking about the people who are listening to this, and man, they want to hear, man, how can I start being a prolific writer? How can I create income streams online so that I can go to Portugal and live my life remote? I can wake up to sales on my course. Where do they start? Well, what would you recommend they start with?
I would say, you start with building a life that could stand independent of the internet. If the internet is just a tool, I think people make it the toolbox too much. And no, your life is the toolbox, and the internet is just a tool. So if you work on building your life and having something interesting, a skill set or whatever, it's going to be a lot easier to move it over to the internet. I know a lot of guys who just try to make it online, and I'm like, look, for every one success story I know, and usually when I dig a little deeper, they fall into one of these categories, where they built something, and through that, whether they use it directly in terms of that's what they're selling, or indirectly where they understand kind of what has to happen to build up things and not just chase clout and cool pictures for Instagram, then they're able to succeed. So the first piece of advice I always give people is to do that. You go and make sure that you have some skill set that's going to make your life a lot easier. That's going to give you a pivot point. That'll give you something to talk about, a set of interests, something to deliver to people, something that allows you to connect with people. Being a leader is not just being good at something. You need to also be able to connect to people. And if you can do these things, then the online tools are super easy. Like Gumroad is life changing. You just upload a file, send it to your fans, boom, either they buy it or they don't. Gumroad has single-handedly changed a lot of people's lives, mine included. So let's not forget that it's the creation of assets, but the first asset is you. Create you, and then you can build peripheral and supporting assets to you and sell those online. And that's really all I've done.
That's powerful, man. Create you. I like how you said that, because a lot of people would talk about finding myself. I got to find myself. I got to find my passion. I got to, just figure out that one thing. And this is going to be the answer to all my problems, and I'm going to be happy forever. When I like the way you put it, and it's like, you got to create you. You're not a finished product. I'm not we're not even close. We're in the journey. This is just a data point. This is just one instance where these are the things that we're doing right now. And that does not mean that this is it. It comes back to identity. We get so wrapped up in, I'm Deepak, I'm a podcaster. That's what I am. That's my value.
Right.
That's my value to this world. Now, what if I just like quit the podcast and just put it all on IGTV? And am I still a podcaster? Because I'm technically not creating like, it's just labels, bro. I'm not a podcaster. I'm me. I have my set of beliefs. This is a method of communication, of connection, of creation. This is me creating myself. That's what I feel like. I'm leveling up with this conversation. I'm going to take tidbits. The rest of my day is going to be different because of this conversation that I had. And people who are a fly on the wall listening to this, I'm hoping that it has an impact on them as well. And if it doesn't, man, whatever, I'm still going to keep creating. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I think that's a very, very powerful tidbit that I think people should focus on is create yourself. And that means tasting a lot of things. You know, you spent time in the military, you know, this was not, you could have just been like, that's what I'm a U.S. National Guard vet. This is who I am. This is my identity. That's all I'm going to post about, you know, or I'm a boxer. I'm an athlete. That's all I am. Or I'm an author. That's all I am. Man, we're living in a world where people are multifaceted. We have a bunch of different things that we're trying to do. It's very important to have that North Star, that guiding why, and figure out those things before you just try and become some overnight success.
Exactly. Like, it's not, I would say it's weird. It's not weird. It's really clear. I mean, the goal is not to become popular. The goal is to become valuable. If you just so happen to become popular because you're valuable, whatever, but that's the right order. That's the horse before the cart. But trying to pursue popularity in lieu of value is the cart before the horse.
Absolutely, man. Kind of one of the last topics I wanted to talk to you about it is, you know, what are some of the practical things that you do to keep yourself grounded? What are some things you do every day that keep you, you know, focused and on track with all these different things you do?
Well, I'm getting a lot better at not working all the time. I like to step away and you know, kind of just have a little bit of fun. Now, for what as much fun as I can have right now, which pretty much boils down to taking walks, ordering food, and watching a good show. But that's
what are you watching right now, Ed? Tell the people what's the show that you're binging
right now. So I just finished Narcos Mexico, and now I'm watching the original Narcos. So I'm watching that one. If that is not your flavor, I also just finished watching Altamar, which is it's high seas in English, but they have it subtitled, and it's a Spanish like two season murder mystery on a boat, which is really entertaining.
Man, yes.
And then I'm watching this thing called Dark Tourism, where this guy from New Zealand flies around and does all these dark touristy places.
I've seen that one.
Yeah, so there's some cool stuff. I mean, it's really nice, man. Like I'm in my business room right now, and then you know I'll leave out, go get some more coffee, get a Diet Coke, come back, work for a few hours, and then hang out in the living room. Got a balcony with a nice view. Like I mean, these are things that like are all like came from my brain, man. Like worked hard and put value out, got money back, and now it's just kind of live and have a good time.
So what's the exercise routine like these days?
Oh, man, I'm doing a lot of running. And then I go to some places. I found a few gyms that are open. So I can still lift weights, which is cool. I know a lot of people don't have that option. But I'm doing a lot of running up hills. In fact, that's what I need to do today is go lift some weights. You just reminded me.
For me, it's the hill sprints are keeping me alive because I don't have access to the gym, but I have some weights at home, and so the home workouts just don't hit the same, bro. Like I tried, I do them. It's just like I gotta go do something. Like the hills really get me, and then do like a circuit between them. Do you do any like meditation and mindfulness exercises beyond just to sit outside and just think?
No, I don't. And I've thought about maybe if cold showers count. Yeah, sure, right?
Yeah.
But
it's a part of it, man. It's a part of it.
But in terms of something super serious, no, I don't really do anything like that. I've always, not always, but I'm of the belief that the best mindfulness exercise is putting your mind on the thing and doing it, getting it done. If you do that, then you're going to be in good shape.
I love it. I love it, man. This has been an incredible conversation. I could honestly sit with you here for hours and just pick your brain about all different kinds of things. It's been really valuable. I like to end my podcast off with 3 questions, quick lightning round kind of thing. But you know, I've loved this conversation today. Like I leveled up today, so I did.
Awesome.
I did what I had to do today to level up, and I'm sure a lot of people are getting a lot of value from this. So, question number 1 is: what's been one of your biggest takeaways of becoming a prolific writer online? What's been like the biggest like aha moment? Like, oh, okay, from writing online.
That well, first of all, as the good SEO is, especially now with machine learning, good SEO is also a good user experience. It wasn't always that way, but now you can write well, that tends to be. And by write well, I don't just mean like, you know, make the words engaging, but like, you know, you gotta be readable. You gotta choose the right level of readability
and the keywords that gotta be in there for you to rank higher in Google and things like that.
Yeah, things like that.
That's awesome. Number 2, if you could talk to 17-year-old Ed and give him any advice, what would it be?
Don't drink, man. Just stay away.
Yeah.
And you know what? And then get started in boxing now. That's what I'd change. I'd tell them to start boxing now.
I love it, man. Last and final question before we wrap up today. How do you want to be remembered?
Oh, man. As somebody who tried to help, that's it. I mean, I consider myself a teacher above all things. So if people remember me as a teacher, I've done a great job.
I love it, man. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Shout out all your social media and where people can buy any of your courses or any of your content.
Oh, I'm just regular with Ed Latimore. So I'm at edlatimore.com, Ed Latimore on Twitter, Ed Latimore Instagram, Ed Latimore Boxer on Facebook. Somebody already had Ed Latimore on Facebook.
Damn.
But yeah, so I have it. That's where I'm at, man. You can just type Google on Ed Latimore. A bunch of my stuff will come up, and I will be easy to find.
I really appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming on the podcast. And just remember, it's not that deep.